The culture of higher education continues to be an important consideration as we begin to explore more deeply the purpose of higher education. This presentation and lecture will expand our thinking on culture from the first lecture and will begin to establish a deeper understanding of the cultural contexts within higher education. As a reminder, we are using Egner Schein's definition of organizational culture as a system of shared backgrounds, norms, values, or beliefs among members of a group. Through our understanding of academic governance, we come to realize organizational cultures exist in a context. While it is sometimes easy to think about an organization existing as one culture, a more accurate picture is to view the organization as existing within the context of an expansive macro culture, an assortment of subcultures, and as functional microcultures. While this terminology is not part of our daily language, it is important as we begin to understand more about how higher education institutions are cultural organizations and how change evolves within the academy. Higher education does not exist in a vacuum where the only cultural influences are those within or across institutional boundaries. Higher education exists within the macro-cultural environment of a national system of education that includes not only post-secondary institutions, but also primary and secondary institutions. By some accounts, most people complete a secondary degree and nearly 1/3 of adults earn post-secondary degrees. In the United States, our society has created a model where everyone is encouraged, if not expected, to attend college. Unfortunately, the trend in higher education is lower completion rates and increased remediation, leading to longer enrollments and more time to degree completion. These trends suggest that too many high school students are underprepared when they enter the halls of higher education. Education and economic growth are fascinatingly linked. This link is both obvious and divisive. Obvious in that each of us can easily understand the impact education has had on our lives and the lives of others. Every day we rely on education when we read the newspaper, balance our checkbook, or send an email. It is divisive because the link is hard to understand and often difficult to prove. However, over time, living standards have increased as education levels have improved. It is commonly believed that those with a baccalaureate degree earn more over a lifetime than those without. A person with a post-secondary degree may earn up to 50% more than someone who does not complete college. While earning potential and economics are not the only important factors, both are certainly a component of the macro context in which education exists. Higher education in the United States is adopting a more global position than in previous years, as institutions are assuming a greater role in a changing and challenging world. The contemporary social life of students is one of interconnectedness and disappearing boundaries, leading to an almost seamless acceptance of globalization within higher education. Students and others connect through a multitude of platforms designed to provide social networking, communication, and interaction. The challenge for education is to continue to find creative ways to harness these social media, effectively extending the classroom and removing barriers to learning and access. While online learning has continued to expand, with City University being one of the leaders, its evolution must include alternative delivery models that take advantage of the wealth of information that can be found online, both informally through search engines or formally through the ever-increasing free classes being offered by the likes of Stanford, Harvard, Duke, and other universities. A thorough discussion of the macro culture of higher education cannot be had without including quality and accountability. The U.S. Department of Education has made it a priority to improve the quality of higher education. A popular term came into existence in light of these reform efforts: no college student left behind. These reform efforts are based on the expectations that colleges will show some evidence that students are learning and that this learning directly correlates with gainful employment. As college tuitions begin to rise, consumers are demanding to know how the money is being spent on campus to ensure a quality education. Accrediting bodies in an effort to maintain control of the peer evaluation process, have all adopted an expectation of learning outcomes for accredited institutions. However, a larger picture of quality comes to play in the differences between those institutions holding regional accreditation versus national accreditation. Regionally accredited institutions are generally nonprofit, academically oriented institutions like City University, whereas nationally accredited institutions are predominantly for-profit and career-oriented. While some in higher education think the sector is outside the fray of competition, the evidence is to the contrary. The marketplace of higher education is filled with top college rankings, best college lists, and America's best universities, all seeking to lure the consumer into the competitive underbelly of higher education. While this initial assessment appears to be a little harsh, it is not too far off the mark. Competition is prevalent within tertiary education, with institutions vying for a spot on these lists. However, these market-like mechanisms at play in higher education have created a sort of check and balance whereby colleges are accountable to each other as well as to the public. Much of what we think about culture in higher education exists in the form of the subcultures that are present within our institutions. Edgar Schein discusses subcultures as being reflective of the functional units, the hierarchical levels, and the geographic locations of the organization. For higher education, the functional units are the various academic disciplines and professional trades on the campus. The hierarchical levels are the various roles individuals hold on campus, such as administration, faculty, staff, student, and other roles. Finally, the geographic locations may include branch campuses, regional campuses, or international divisions of the college or university. The subculture of faculty is one of the cultures most associated with higher education. Taking a closer look, faculty are most often viewed in terms of their academic discipline. This word, discipline, has at its root the moral concept of regulating behaviors or ways of thinking. Expanding this to higher education, it becomes a technical term for the organization of learning and the systematic production of new knowledge within a specific field of practice, often operating within the silos of that discipline. Higher education institutions are often organized around clusters of faculty in similar disciplines, such as arts and sciences, health sciences, business, law, and other typical groupings. Decisions are made in regard to faculty promotion and the expenditure of resources within these clusters, making the academic disciplines the base of power for much of what happens on campus. Administrative staff operate in similar subcultures as faculty, but do not hold the same status in most institutions. Most often segmented by a specific skill versus a discipline, administrative staff broadly includes administrators, accountants, maintenance, support, coaches, and other non-teaching employees who have the primary function of managing the operation of the institution. While much of the daily work of higher education rests with these administrative staff, much of the power still lies with the faculty. This can create a level of cultural conflict as change occurs on campus. The subcultures that exist within the hierarchical levels are similar across all organizational types, including higher education. Hierarchy describes a framework based on social rank, power, and authority. In the culture of higher education, hierarchy begins with students who come to the campus with little or no power and authority, but gradually gain both as they progress through the levels. Likewise, it is the faculty and administrative staff who hold the power and authority on campus, but eventually cede some of this power as students gain social maturity. For example, freshman students know very little about the inner workings of the university, and thus have little to contribute to the decision-making that occurs on campus. However, seniors and even more so graduate students often have learned a great deal about the management of the college and can offer much to the administrative staff and faculty. Finally, while not common in higher education, subcultures can exist across branch campuses, regional campuses, and especially at international campuses. Many community colleges have multiple campuses across various regions of their geographic area. Many of the branch campuses offer different courses or specific degree programs, leading to subcultural differences based primarily on location and academic discipline. Likewise, large state systems often have regional campuses throughout the state that take on the various culture of the region in which it exists. Finally, there is an emergence of higher education institutions creating international campuses or partnerships that, like their manufacturing and business counterparts, find the cultural differences between the home and international campus to be significant. And of course, the culture of online education has expanded in such a great degree that colleges and universities are really limitless, boundless. The microcultures in higher education are those groups that share common tasks and histories. While this appears similar to the academic disciplines on campus, it is better thought of as the specific research interests within these disciplines. For example, within the academic discipline of history may exist the microcultures of early American history, world history, or ancient history. Edgar Schein uses the example of a football team as a microculture, and this can certainly be expanded to include other sports teams or student organizations. While holding very little power on campus as individual cultures, collectively within the ranks of the institution, microcultures can be very influential. Think Penn State football.